starts right now with breaking news.
We're following the breaking news out of Washington tonight, where protesters stormed the Capitol and broke inside. At least one woman has died after being shot on Capitol grounds.
It is a rapidly developing story as police and the National Guard trying to regain control of the Capitol. This is a live look at Washington, D.C., where at this hour curfew has been enacted. Over the last few hours, the mayor of Washington called today's events, quoting now, shameful and unpatriotic.
The Capitol building was locked down as supporters of President Trump broke into the building just as lawmakers were meeting to vote to affirm the Electoral College results. These protests not just happening in Washington, D.C., but all over the country, from Las Vegas to Minneapolis, Sacramento, California, to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Both President Donald Trump and President-elect Joe Biden have addressed the public. Now, in a live address to the nation, President-elect Biden called on President Trump to, quote, step up, in that our democracy is under, quote, now unprecedented assault. President Trump then releasing a video on Twitter saying the rioters are, quote, now special, but need to go home now.
We have team coverage tonight from our nation's capital, as our team has been on the ground throughout the day. Tonight, we begin with our national correspondent Christine Frizzell on Capitol Hill with the latest on the protest.
On Capitol Hill, tensions running high as Trump supporters broke past barriers, scaled barricades, and stormed the Capitol.
We own you!
Hundreds getting inside, walking footsteps away from both chambers of Congress. Surrounding buildings evacuated. Staffers and lawmakers told to shelter in place. Outside, most of those taking part in the protest not only support President Trump, they believe he actually won the election, despite overwhelming evidence he did not.
So you don't believe Joe Biden got more votes than Donald Trump?
No, I do not.
There's serious problems with accounting for all the machine errors and the systematic nature of the fraud that's taken place.
In MAGA hats, in flags and flats, they came from near and far.
We drove up from South Florida to pick up our daughter in Georgia, and here we are today after 18-20 hours of driving.
One central theme of the day came down to this.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen.
It's no coincidence this march was scheduled for the same day as the Electoral College certification inside Congress. Right now, protesters are making their way to the Capitol building, where many of them truly believe lawmakers will intervene to keep Donald Trump in the White House.
I came out here to support the President of the United States and to stop the steal. This is our last chance to save our republic.
Many here holding on to the election of the past. Others making the case he is the future.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore. This is Donald Trump's Republican Party.
I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Governors and representatives from Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota are taking to social media denouncing the protests at the U.S. Capitol. Senator Chuck Grassley, who is third in the line of succession for the presidency, is in a secure location, saying on Twitter, quote, today's violent attack on the U.S. Capitol was an attack on American democracy itself. I condemn today's violence in the strongest terms, and perpetrators deserve to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Governor Kim Reynolds also saying, quote, this behavior is unacceptable and not who we are as Americans. And Representative Randy Feenstra also is denouncing the protests, calling for protests to remain peaceful. You can see all of Iowa's representatives' responses to today's breaking news on our website, siouxlandnews.com.
Now, before the chaos descended on the Capitol complex, the House floor was the center of attention. A minority of Republican lawmakers had just succeeded in raising their first objection to certification of the Electoral College vote. This joint session to Congress provided over by the Vice President. St. Clair national correspondent James Rosen has that part of the story from Capitol Hill.
Madam Speaker, members of Congress.
Moments before he gavelled the joint session of Congress to order amid COVID-19 restrictions on seating, Vice President Pence, acting in his constitutional role as President of the Senate, released a 3-page letter to lawmakers declaring that his powers in that role do not give him the authority to decide on his own which electoral votes get counted and which can be tossed out.
Mr. Vice President, I, Paul Gosar from Arizona.
It took only 7 minutes after the successful reading of the electoral votes for Alabama and Alaska before the Republicans posed their first objection.
I rise up for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object to the counting of the electoral ballots from Arizona.
GOP lawmakers applauded Senator Ted Cruz, once among President Trump's harshest critics, when he backed the objection. That forced the joint session to adjourn, so members in each chamber, House and Senate, could spend up to 2 hours debating whether to accept Arizona's electoral votes, a process all but certain to end with acceptance by each chamber. In the Senate, both leaders, perhaps soon to switch roles, given the results in Georgia's Senate runoffs, condemned the objection.
The voters, the courts, and the states have all spoken. If we overrule them, it would damage our republic forever.
What message will we send to fledgling democracies who study our Constitution, mirror our laws and traditions, in the hopes that they too can build a country ruled by the consent of the governed?
The GOP objectors seized on the usually ceremonial certification of the Electoral College vote to air what they claim is compelling evidence of massive voter fraud, a claim already rejected by election officials in all 50 states and by state and federal courts.
Simply telling the voters, go jump in a lake, the fact that you have deep concerns is of no moment to us. That jeopardizes, I believe, the legitimacy of this and subsequent elections.
The debate in each house didn't progress much beyond that after pro-Trump protesters breached security and Capitol Police locked down the entire complex. On Capitol Hill, James Rosen.
The Senate races in Georgia are likely to have a major impact on the Biden administration. Some final numbers to be confirmed, but Democrats were able to claim the first big victory. How did they do it, and what role did the pandemic play in these critical runoffs? We have a look now from Sinclair's chief political correspondent, Scott Thuman, who's in Georgia.
Georgia and the nation waking up to a new reality. The tides seemingly turning in the state and elsewhere with the victory of Reverend Raphael Warnock over incumbent Republican Kelly Loeffler.
The 82-year-old hands that used to pick somebody else's cotton went to the polls and picked her youngest son to be a United States Senator.
John Ossoff also declaring victory over David Perdue.
We're talking about two races, 4 million votes decided by basically a percentage point. Any one of 1,000 things could make a difference of 1 percentage point.
What role did COVID play?
That's the big issue. But ultimately, do you want to help Joe Biden or do you want to hurt Joe Biden?
While President-elect Biden said vote Democrat and get those $2,000 stimulus checks, Georgians we talked to who voted Democrat didn't mention money. They talked more about overall change.
People are obviously not satisfied with life in America as it is, and they want to do something to change it.
And they did it multiple ways. Maybe 1 million Georgians voted by mail and used drop-off locations, though Republican officials often fought against the concept, the president attacking the system as unsafe.
The fact is, some Republicans probably just abstained. Some of the craziness around the claims of election fraud.
Even though the results are close in a state that has been reliably red for 2 decades, Republicans will be asking themselves, is this a sign of the changing times, a repudiation of President Trump, or possibly both? In Savannah, Georgia, I'm Scott Thuman.
As the events continue to unfold in Washington, D.C. tonight, please stay with Siouxland News for the latest details. We have complete coverage online at SiouxlandNews.com, on our Siouxland News Facebook page, and on our free Siouxland News app.
We had to navigate some snow and some mushy slush out there today. Fortunately, the accumulations were fairly minor, a little less than expected, but it's going to refreeze tonight. So travel will be kind of tricky, especially on some of those side streets later on tonight and early tomorrow. Those temperatures finally dip below freezing. Our Dakota Dunes cam over the past 6 hours shows that the light snow showers that we had earlier today seem to have thinned out now and didn't really get a whole lot of accumulation there. The back edge of the system, though, is still moving through, so we still may see a few more snow showers out there for parts of the tri-state tonight. On the radar, you see even the radar is confused. You've got some snow showers, but that blue that you see there, the radar is trying to tell us it's rain. It's really not. It's light snow showers. And if the radar is confused, it's no wonder the atmosphere is confused. Sometimes we had rain, sometimes we had snow, but it was mostly snow for us out there today. And these temperatures a little bit above freezing. That's good news. 34 still in Sioux City, 34 in Storm Lake, and 33 currently in Wayne. A few more snow showers overnight with those roads turning icy. Temperatures in the morning, right around 28 degrees. My complete forecast, just a few minutes.
Thanks, John. Nebraska's governor is responding to comments he made on illegal immigrants and the COVID vaccine. His remarks coming up.
Plus, the Siouxland native stepping up to the wheel. When we get back, we'll have a sneak peek into the special Wheel of Fortune episode that's coming up.
You're watching Siouxland News at 5 on KMEG 14 with Larry Wentz, Diana Castillo, Chief Meteorologist John Gerard, and Owen Sebring with sports. This is Siouxland News at 5 on KMEG 14.
Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts addressed criticism of comments that he made Monday about illegal immigrants and the vaccine for COVID-19. Monday, Ricketts said that undocumented workers at meat packing plants in the state will not be eligible to receive the vaccine. Ricketts was criticized by many Democrats after the comments, namely Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He responded to the comments today saying that it is a problem that should even come up.
To be working there, you have to be legal. If you're stealing somebody's identity to work there, that's illegal, but that's a different matter. This is something that we're not going to check immigration status when you're getting the vaccine at a meatpacking plant because that should have already been done before you could take the job there in the first place.
Governor Ricketts also stated that if there is an undocumented worker at a plant, that is not a state problem. It is to be reported to ICE.
It's known as America's Game, but rarely do you see anybody you know spin the Wheel of Fortune. But that's now changed thanks to a Norfolk, Nebraska native.
Let's talk to Luke.
Luke Nofke, is that about right?
That's right. Luke Nofke was born and raised in Norfolk, Nebraska, where his parents still live. He has since moved to the West. Nofke is a lifelong fan of Wheel of Fortune and never really thought about trying out for the show until his daughter convinced him to do it. Following a bunch of interviews, he found himself as a contestant.
It was surreal. It's obviously like a lot of people. I've watched Wheel for pretty much my whole life. I watch it every day with my partner Kim and my 9-year-old daughter Lydia. Like we literally sit down and watch it every night. And so, actually being there and walking on to the set and then actually getting to spin the wheel and play the game, it was pretty crazy.
Nofke never would have found himself in that position if it weren't for his daughter, who still doesn't know he was on the show.
The best part about that is I haven't told Lydia that I was even on the show. So for these last 3 months since we taped, we've just been sitting down and watching the show, and we're going to do the same thing tomorrow and just hopefully blow her mind.
And you can watch the show too. Nofke's episode will be airing tomorrow night at 6:30 right here on KMEG 14.
Oh yeah, I bet it'll blow her mind. Well, one local nonprofit group has a new way for you to support it. Siouxland Habitat for Humanity made 2021 Stud of the Year month calendar. The Stud of the Month is a business that has sponsored a stud so they can decorate it and have it used in a house that Habitat for Humanity is making, and those businesses are getting sponsored in the calendar each month.
We have lots of businesses who stepped forward to sponsor a stud, and every one of them becomes a month in our 2021 calendar. It was really kind of a great idea, a unique idea that we thought everybody needs a calendar in their house, and what a great idea to think of. This is hanging in people's houses and at the same time helping build a house for a new family.
You can buy a calendar at the Hard Rock shop, also at Cruz Chiropractic in Dakota Dunes, and at Habitat for Humanity store on Triview Avenue in Sioux City.
Larry, unfortunately, you and I don't qualify for Stud of the Month. We're too old. We just missed it by a couple of years, but Oh, well. Anyway, we had this out there today, some clumpy, wet snowflakes filling our skies over Siouxland today. I'll let you know when this will end. I'll take a look at the rest of your forecast next.
Start your year smiling at Aspen Dental with our biggest savings of the season.
Look forecast with Chief Meteorologist John Gerard.
Some big, white, and wet, fluffy snowflakes served up by Mother Nature today.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And one word that comes to mind is slushy.
Yeah, slushy for sure. Slushy, how about mushy? Yeah. Mushy, squishy. Squishy's another one we could use out there too. No matter where you step today, it's like stepping into a snow cone. You've got to be really careful out there. And the problem is this is going to refreeze tonight. This area of low pressure, fortunately for us, has gotten weaker as we've gone through the afternoon hours. So just as it turned cold enough to see the rain change into snow, and we saw this out there in North Sioux City and perhaps where you were earlier today as well, this didn't really last too long with those temperatures above freezing. It didn't really stick too much either. So accumulations coming in under an inch across most of the tri-state. A little bit disappointing there if you're a snow lover, but it's going to be still enough to cause some slick and icy conditions on the roads tonight. Have a couple of weather picks want to share with you. This is courtesy of Jim Compton. You can see the cardinal there and some other birds at the bird feeder out there. They seem to be immune to the snow. They kind of like this, I think, for some reason. We get some pretty bird pictures anytime it's snowing out there. A snowy day there. Thank you, Jim Compton, for that. Sent this to us at siouxlandnews.com/chime in. You do the same, and I'll do my best to work as many of those into my weather reports as I can. And this is kind of hard to see there. It's kind of camouflaged, but there's a buck in the dough in the snow. I know that rhymes. Buck in the dough in the snow, courtesy of Patty Cotter right there. And we thank you for that again. siouxlandnews.com/chime in for all of your weather picks. We go through that entire stack every day. Sioux City Camp from the Ho Chunk Center, sponsored by JC Roofing and Insulating. We had some snow out there earlier today. Now it's just plain old wet with these temperatures just a little bit above freezing. The longer it stays above freezing, the better for us. Our Norfolk Camp over the past 6 hours, sponsored by Bank First. Kind of sloppy and a little bit wet out there as well. Kingsley Camp, sponsored by FS Repair in the city of Kingsley. Some snow showers around, but again, not a whole lot of accumulation, but that's not really the point here. The point is just enough moisture to cause some slick and icy spots on the roads tonight. And our Ottawa Cam, sponsored by the city of Ottawa and the Hut Discount Store, same story out that way as well. A little bit of light rain and snow, mostly light rain showers, still kind of circulating around that area of low pressure, but it's not going to be around all that long tonight. And we really don't look for much of accumulation. Look at these temperatures, still above freezing right now, and we're only going to slip slowly below freezing later tonight. So the few snow showers will linger. We'll see the roads turning icy. Temperatures later on tonight only down to about 28. That's not too bad for this time of the year, but it's still below freezing. And then 33 for the high tomorrow. Icy roads in the morning, then just plain old cloudy and cold. That's going to be the theme for a while. Cloudy and cold Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well. And you're looking for that sunshine, that vitamin D. It's not going to happen for a while. Then partly sunny and a little bit warmer as we head toward next week.
Thanks, John. When we return here on Siouxland News at 5, we will have the latest from the protests at our nation's capital.
Plus, we'll hear from a Nebraska voter who organized a pro-Trump rally in Lincoln, Nebraska, and his reason for doing so. Stay with us.
Nobody does football like FanDuel Sportsbook, the wild card.
We continue our coverage tonight of the violent protests in Washington, D.C., where a curfew was put in place at the top of the hour. As we take a live look at our nation's capital tonight, officials in Washington saying the Capitol building, which was breached this afternoon, has been secured. What we know so far is that at least one person has died after being shot on Capitol grounds. Countless others have been arrested. We go on the ground now in Washington for the very latest.
Well, there is no other way to describe it besides chaos at the Capitol. You can look right behind me here and see that there are people on the steps leading up to the Capitol building. You can hear people making announcements, some talking about civil war here. We've seen images throughout the day that we never thought we would see. Just a few steps away, you're hearing counter-protesters telling these people that they are in the wrong for making a stand such as this. Earlier, the Capitol breached. Somebody shot here. And now looks to be free reign at the Capitol building. We have been making our way through the crowd. In some parts it appears to be thinning out in some areas, but we also see people standing here with flags flying and no end in sight. We're going to stand here and we're going to continue to watch as things develop here in the nation's capital. People with "Don't Tread on Me" flags on the steps of the Capitol building right now, and police keeping a distance at this point. The National Guards have been activated, and so we'll have to keep an eye on this and see where this goes from here. In Washington, D.C., Carl Willis.
Demonstrations were not only happening in Washington, but also in Nebraska as well. This was the scene earlier today at the Capitol in Lincoln, where dozens gathered in protest of the election results. And like many across the nation, this one did remain peaceful. One protester, Tim Davis, explained why he felt the need to protest the Electoral College results.
Once the election's done and over with, we're going to be fighting not just for election integrity, but to also preserve all of our rights and freedoms that we know are at risk. I was actually just talking to a couple people not too long ago that, that experienced the issues that we have with online censorship when it comes to social media.
Now, beyond concerns over the First Amendment, Davis also mentioned protecting Second Amendment rights that he and the group feel are at risk as well. Well, as the events continue to unfold in Washington and across the country tonight, please stay with Siouxland News for the latest details. We have complete coverage online at SiouxlandNews.com, on our Siouxland News Facebook page, and on our free Siouxland News app. And stay with KMAG 14 for CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell following this newscast.
Well, John, I think we're all wondering, is there any more snow in sight for tonight?
We're going to see a few more snow showers overnight tonight. We didn't get as much snow as we were expecting today, but we're still going to have some pretty significant travel issues, especially in some of those side streets later on tonight as the slush we had earlier today refreezes, and then a little bit of snow shower activity on top of that, maybe leaving a light little coating or a dusting. So plan now to give yourself some extra time out the door in the morning tomorrow. Then it's going to just stay plain old cloudy and cold for the next 4 days. Tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Good news, no big storms in sight through the next 7 days. And even better news, we should start to warm up as we head toward next week. We'll update you again tonight at 10. See you then.